Welcome back everybody to another in my time-lapse model build series, and this is going to be the first of 5 videos I'll be releasing covering the building of my series of 109s. Now if you haven't been following along on the What's on My Desk monthly updates, first of all, start following those videos. There's a lot of cool updates I go through and introducing new kits and some new stuff that I have and whatnot, so you'll see some of that. And it's just, you get to follow along and see my builds. So you get a little bit more of an in-depth look at a month-by-month progress on these kits versus just hopping to the end and watching this time-lapse. But you know what? These time-lapses are fun to watch as well. So this particular kit is the Tamiya ME-109E. Of course, I am not prepared for this. So here's the kit. It is the Tamiya 1/48 scale 109E. This is the E4, E7. I am building it as an E7, and this is actually the scheme here that I'm going to be going. So you'll get to see the whole progress of me getting through this kit to the point of painting and decaling. Overall, not much to say. Kit is great. It is what you'd expect from a Tamiya kit. So let's hop into this. You guys are going to get to watch me build this in you know, I don't know, maybe 40 minutes. This is usually how long these are. So go ahead and enjoy the video. And before we get into that, my name is Sean, and this is Sean's Aviation. And as well, just before we get into the meat of this video, I just want to say thank you for everybody out there who is watching this video and watches the channel. If you like what you see down below, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you do want to see new content when it comes out. I try to release a couple of videos a month, depending on how things are going. Now, if you'd like to help a little bit more in a concrete way, a financial way, if you'd like to help support the channel, not obligated to do it. I don't want people to feel like that's what I'm trying to do. This isn't the point of the channel. It's for me to have fun and for you guys to learn and enjoy what I enjoy. But if you would like to help out a little bit, by all means, down below, you'll see a link to my coffee account. Buy me a coffee. I always have a coffee on the go, almost always. So by all means, hop over there, buy me that coffee if you'd like to help out, but don't feel like you have to. That's not the point of this channel. That being said, let's jump into this video. We'll get this 109 built. And as usual with aircraft models here, I do start with the cockpit. Tamiya does provide a relatively good cockpit in here. It's a few years old, the kit, but the detail is still good. The cockpit goes together relatively easy without much effort, as you will see here. And once I have the aircraft cockpit painted, mostly assembled, the instrument panel decal is on, everything is more or less ready, I go ahead and get the weathering done and get this ready to assemble the fuselage. So here we are, current progress on the 109E. As I'm sure you've seen, I've gotten everything for the cockpit basically done. It's been painted. The E had the earlier light color gray that you're seeing here. So I've got the paint done, I picked out the details, I've done some basic assembly, and then I did the black wash and then some dry brushing, and now it is more or less ready to be assembled. You can see it's a very simple process to just glue that cockpit in. But you can see here it's basically ready to go. So my next step is going to be assembling this fuselage and then moving on to the next points. And it does look really good. I'm not going to use the seatbelt decals that were included in the kit because none of the other 109s that I'm building have seatbelt decals included, and I don't want to make this one look significantly different than the others. So I'm just going to go without them. It's not perfectly accurate, but it's enough that it's going to look good. And just from from the distance they're looking in, it looks like a good cockpit. There's enough detail and pop to make it look good. So on that note, we are going to continue on with this, so stay tuned. We'll get these fuselages glued together and start fleshing out this model, and we'll see you again for a quick update like this a little farther on in the video. And as you can see here, the fuselage goes together relatively painlessly. A couple of minor seams I'll have to clean up. The wings as well go together relatively easy. There's not much to deal with these 109 kits. Most of it just falls together. And now that I got most of the worst of the seams cleaned up, I do get these wings glued onto the fuselage, and then I can move ahead and take the final steps I need to make sure that any seams do get the putty and sanding and final prep work that they do need before we move on to priming. And here you can see one of the more important steps when building a model that some people tend to miss, and that's actually with the dehydral of the wings. You can see how I tape from one wingtip across the fuselage and then the other, and then I glue the wing root joints separately, and that ensures that those joints are as tight as possible. If you just leave the aircraft as it is, you get these massive wide gaps. Using that tape will pull the wing up a little bit, close that wing root gap, and will allow it to have the proper dehydral that is needed for the finished aircraft to look right. And then, as always, there is a little bit of filler needed here and there just to fill in the seams, and you can see me get that applied, and then I'll go ahead and sand all of that off in preparation for primer. And here you'll see me going ahead and getting the canopies masked. I don't use any of the pre-cut masks. I just use the Tamiya tape and a good sharp knife blade with a bit of a backlight, and I go ahead and make my own masks based off of the canopy. I do have a video showing you how I do this. If you'd like to see it, you can just find the link up above, and it shows how I go through this process of getting these canopies made. And just like that, through the process and magic of editing, the aircraft has been primed, but also I have the lower light blue-gray color has been applied. And it is, I set the process of masking in order to get the upper color done. As usual, if you'd like to see my masking processes, you can take a link up above, and you'll see the video I made on that.
So while I'm doing this, we will quickly discuss what I'm doing. So if you've watched previous videos, including my Tamiya 148 scale Focus 190 door 9, you'll see something similar where I actually use the instructions. In that case, I had to blow them up to the right scale. In this case, Tamiya provides a scale outline of all of the splotches, and for whatever reason the Luftwaffe, or the Germans, really love their splotchy camo. Now, to be honest, it worked. Probably why they loved it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out the template. I'm going to go through and cut out all of the appropriate shapes, and then when that gets taped onto the wing, I'll use a little bit of milliput to hold it down in place, but when that gets taped onto the wing, I can just quickly spray with the darker green, and it will actually give me the shape that I need to have for the finished product. So it makes life a little easier, makes it a little more accurate to get these splotches, so it's not just random and it doesn't look bad. They'll kind of hold the shape, and if you use a little bit of mini-put to hold them off the wing, you will actually get an accurate shape and a little bit of a softer edge the way they should be. So that's my plan. We'll see how it works. So at this rate, I'm just going to go through and cut all these out, which obviously I will do on a time lapse, and then hopefully we will get to see what the finished product looks like. So let's just crack on and get this done.
And apologies for my head being in the majority of these videos, as I do film with a top-down camera. Anytime I lean over to get a good view, you guys just stare at the back of my head. I do need to set up a bit of an oblique side view camera. I don't have a lot of space on the desk for a setup like that, but it's something I need to work on so that I can switch to a different view when I'm doing work like this.
So as usual, my luck, my luck holds out. While I'm painting the dark green, the little bottle, I don't know if you ever, just to go through backstory, the layout tips have these little inserts where you can squirt the paint color out. And the dark green I was using, it was blocked. So I squirted, a little bit came out. I tried to, like, you know, see, you know, maybe it's, you know, I gave it a good hard push and the whole top blew out and the paint went everywhere. And you can see the remnants of it here on this wing, and there's some all down the spine and everything else. So it's now got to have, and because it's Vallejo paint on top of Vallejo paint, there's not much I can do in the way of like cleaning without stripping the underlying color. So I now need to go through and clean up as much as I can. I'm going to leave some of it, to be perfectly honest, like especially on this wing, because it is going to have a little bit of the, it's going to have the dark green splotches on it anyways, and I'm going to be weathering this aircraft pretty heavily, to be perfectly honest. It's going to be a very heavily used desert German 109, so I'm just going to give it a light clean up with the brown color again. And then I'll go over the bluey gray color a little later, but I'm just going to coat just a little bit with it just to cover the worst of it. And like I said, with the green splotches going on it anyways, it's going to be blended in pretty heavily, I would assume. So I'm just going to give it a little bit, and then I'll go through later. When I spray the dark brown, or the dark green, I should say, and it should hide the worst of it. Never fails, honestly. Every time I paint the model, something goes south with the paint. Something. It's never just an easy process. I always get paint peeling, paint lifting, splotches, and whatever it is. The airbrush decides to go sideways on me and spit and get weird paint. Oh, it never ends. Just once, I'd like to paint an airplane and have it go smooth. So yeah, it's not perfect, but I'm going to leave it at that. I am going to go ahead, actually I got to do a little bit more right here. I am going to go ahead and pull the mask off that other side, just to get a good look at how it looks. There's more up here. Inside the gun trough here. But yeah, I am going to pull that paint mask off that other side just to take a good look and see how it landed. If it turned out good, if it came out looking what I was hoping for in my mind, then I know I can go ahead and do it on the other side. So let's just see. I can't rip it because I need this mask to do the flaps and the slats for this side, so I can't damage the paper when I peel this off in any way. So I just have to go extremely slow and pull off all of these little bits of tape I have down. Doesn't matter because it is painted already, so I can leave those off. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Gotta be careful I don't put my fingers across anywhere where I just... Fortunately, it looks like the spilled paint may have ruined the paper. Yeah. The paper's melted into the paint. Damn. See? It never fails. It looks so good, except the paper has all been melted into... has all been melted down into the paint. It all stuck to the green paint that all... So now I'm going to have to sand that down and... Yeah, I'm going to have to scrape and sand and make a mess trying to clean all that up. I mean, that looks so good if it wasn't for that spilt paint. That looks the part completely. Yeah, I am very, very, very angry with how all that turned out. But what are you going to do? So I'm going to let that sit for a while. I want that to have a really good, solid dry time. And maybe later today, I'll try to get this other wing done. But we'll do it a little later. So plug it away. So here we have a quick mid-build update on the 109E, and as I'm sure you've seen from... Now, I guess you haven't seen, I had a battery issue with the camera, so there was a bit of, as I was masking and doing the paper templates for this, I couldn't record the end of it. I wasn't going to wait until I had it sorted. I wanted to get this done as I already had the paint in the airbrush. So I went ahead and finished the green splotches, but there it is. All the green splotches are done. The only real thing I have left to do on this is painting the area here where the slats go, the RLMO2. I did wait to the end for that, so I got to do that. And then as we're talking, I'm going to pull the gear doors. Yeah, so where was I? Yeah. So all I got to do is really paint inside the slat tracks there at the front for the RLMO2, that brownie gray color, to be put in. And other than that, it is pretty much ready for a clear coat. I'm going to start applying that clear coat very soon, actually. And get all this out of the... and then it's basically it's ready for decals after that. So we're definitely in a moving along on this. We'll get those decals done. This particular one I plan on weathering pretty heavily. You know, desert, German combat in the desert was pretty hectic. They really wouldn't have had time to, you know, stay on top of minor maintenance or cleaning or whatnot. The aircraft would be pretty heavily weathered, in my opinion, and that's kind of where I'm going to go with it. That's also a twofold reasoning. It's also going to help hide some of this area where I had to do the overpainting because of that green explosion that happened on it. So I think a heavy weathering on that is going to definitely make it look a little more realistic, hide some of that. And then really, other than that, there's a few other little things I got to do. I got to paint the prop still. I got to get the exhausts on. There's some other little detailing things I got to do. But we're moving, definitely moving in the right direction with that. So that's where we are. So like I said, stay tuned. My next steps are going to be the clear coat and the decals, and I'm going to seal all of that, and then I'll start poking away at some of the other little things that I have to do on that. So stay tuned.
Just as you're watching me do the decal process here, as always with everything else I've mentioned, if you do want to see how my decal process is, up at the top there'll be a link you can click on to my tips and tricks video on applying decals.
So here, time for a bit of a build update before we move on to the next step. And as I'm sure you've seen if you've been following along, it is pretty much done, really. This is the current status of the kit. I'm at the point now where I am more or less ready to weather. All the decals are on. I've already done a second coat of clear on it to seal everything in, so I can do a little bit of weathering on top of that, and it shouldn't affect it much. And then once the weathering is done, I'm going to give it a shot of dull coat, and at that point it's just assembling the last of the little bits, and then it should be finished. So far there have been really no issues with this kit other than my own mistakes, especially with the paint, the explosion of the green paint getting everywhere. My first layer of clear, the future I use has started to go a little thick, so it left some lines. I'm hoping that will more or less disappear once I flat coat it, but you know, it is what it is. I'm a little annoyed with that, but so far the worst of it's been hidden with a second coat, so I'm hoping that a flat coat will just hide almost all of those issues. And other than that, like I said, it's just assembly of the little bits. Prop, I'll go through some of the extra spots I have here. So the props have been painted in the dark green RLM 70. I still need to do the center hub in aluminum, and then the spinner has been painted, and it's got the red and white sections done the way it's supposed to be. I used a bit of the sticky tack to hold it all together in the right orientation while I painted, so that the lines match up. I got to touch up the white there just a little bit. I'll do that once it's all assembled before the very end. So that's basically ready to go. The flaps have all been, the decals are on. Again, I'll flat coat those when I do the final flat coat. I'll probably assemble it and then flat coat it once it's assembled. So that's kind of how it's going to look with the flaps down. And then the slats are also done. I painted the inside of the slats in the RLM02 the way it's supposed to be. So again, when you get the flaps and the slats in there, it's going to look really good. I haven't gloss coated anything on those, so we'll see what happens when I flat coat, what happens to the color. But you can kind of see it's going to look really good when it's all assembled. And the way I painted the green splotches, everything actually lines up the way it's supposed to. So when you look at it, it looks the right way. All the green lines up because I used the template. So it's going to look really good, you know, sitting there when it's fully assembled. So I think it's a really interesting look. I'm so happy so far with how it's turned out. I still have ample opportunity to screw it up. So we'll see how the rest of my build goes. But anyways, at this point, like I said, I'm basically ready to start the process of doing some black wash on it and going through and picking up the details. You know, I got to reach in here and paint the front of the engines black and the guns black. And I'm going to try to get down in here and do the inside of the radiators black. The back, I don't think I have to worry. No, I don't have to worry about the back at all because the flaps hide it. So I'm not too worried about that. The landing gears are done. The decal is on. There's a little tiny decal on the inside of that I did get done. So same thing with that one. I think I got that the wrong way. That one should go on this side. When I go get about to gluing everything together, it should look really good. Gear doors are also all completed so that they're in the right. They still have to be weathered, but they're just all popped together once it's time to assemble. So it shouldn't take too long at all to get everything actually put together at the end. I think it's... No, anyways. The only real thing I have left to do in terms of painting, oh yeah, and because I painted these already the right color, they're just going to pop in at the very, very end. That'll be like the last thing I do, is put the struts in. The only real thing I have left to do is the wheels. I haven't done the wheels yet, so the hubs, the insides and the outside of the hubs still need to be done. But that's really the only significant paint. And then the exhaust will have to be painted, but I'll do those later. One, two, three of the 5 I have to paint the exhausts on the aircraft, and then these two, there's 2 of them, including this one, that I can paint after the fact. I think I'm just going to brush paint them Vallejo steel, just to get over, instead of painting out the alclad. I can't paint 3 of the 5 with alclad, so I think I'm just going to cut the corner and do it that way. But other than that, we're pretty much there. Like I said, I'm going to start the black wash on this. Get the black wash done. Once the black wash is done, do a little bit of exhaust staining on here. And then I can go ahead and start getting all of the little details finished. Get the prop hub painted, get the prop assembled, get the landing gear in place, pick out some detail on that, get the masking off, and just start taking those final steps. But we're 80-85% there, and it is looking really, really good so far. So I'm very happy with how that turned out. So stay tuned. We'll get the final steps on this 109E completed.
notice here I'm remasking the cockpit. I had pulled those masks out in order to facilitate the decals and some touch-ups around the canopy, but now that it's time for the flat coat, I do have to remask that opening so you don't fog the inside of the clear pieces. And then, as you can see, I get the aircraft flat coated, and then I move on to those next steps of the little final bits and bobs that need to be assembled, which you don't want to have on while you spray the flat coat. And this final step is just me installing the antenna. It's just a little bit of easy line. It's a little elastic thread that you can use. It gives a nice taut line. It won't shrink because it has a little bit of tension on it. But anyways, I install that, and then we'll take a look here at the end. You can take, here are some pictures of the final built product. And yeah, thank you all for watching.
Thank you for watching, guys, and as always, if you are interested in any of the content you see, you can access my website at www.seans-aviation.com. You can see all the latest pictures of aircraft and museums and the build logs of all of my current models and past models on that site. And if you're interested in any of this content, please click the subscribe button here on YouTube to follow more. Thank you very much, and see you guys next time.